And we are live on the Lonely TARDIS, your journey through Time Lords and space, where three wonderful companions try to navigate Doctor Who's little blue box. That sounded really bad. We were trying to find
Mine's
our way
bigger than
through.
yours.
Yeah, your box is bigger than mine. Um, and where we three friends talk all about Doctor Who and the latest Doctor Who episodes and news and other things that we find cool. But since we're finally back in Doctor Who season. It's been forever. We can now strictly talk about Doctor Who episodes, and we are going to talk about space babies. But first, gents, hello. Marcus, how are you?
Hello.
Oh yeah.
Hiya. I just heard hiya.
Babies in space.
Oh, there's been singing in these first few episodes, so that's always a good
Oh
sign.
yes, yes.
Yeah, you doing
I'm
good?
here. I'm here. Let's just crack on with this. Let's get this out of the way. Let's pull the thorn out of the pad.
All right. Well, I want to say hello to Sean. Sean, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. No thorns in these pads.
No,
So
no thorns. No, none at
I'm
all.
good. No,
Just a
I'm
couple
None
of
good.
at
pains
all.
in our asses.
There you go. Yeah,
Excited,
that's a good
yeah.
point.
That,
Yeah.
excited that the old doctor's back and
The
we
old
get to do this
doctor.
again.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to talk to you, lovely boys, and
Did you just
talk
gum
Doctor
that
Who.
response? Did you just you just use your gums? Yeah.
Talk to you, lovely
Yeah.
boys.
Like just
Yeah,
turn him into a toothless old bot. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I'm getting old.
Okay.
I'm getting old. I'm
Yeah.
not.
I,
You guys are somehow getting younger, and I'm getting older.
I
But
remember when Doctor Who were in black and white, and it was on once a week on Saturday after Grandstand. It was William Hartnell. None of this singing and dancing crap back then, I'll tell you what. And you could get a new house, a three-piece suit, and a big dinner for half a crown.
Crown was a good series. No, of course Marcus would go back in time. But guess who else also goes back in time? In this episode, the Doctor goes back in time for a brief moment. This episode is Space Babies, where the Doctor and Ruby end up on a space station, I guess, in the future, populated by babies and their nanny and a bogeyman. And they have to save the day. But they do start with dinosaurs. It went all the way back in time. Show Ruby how the dinos came about.
And the
Got the
butterfly
Disney
effect.
CG money. That Disney CG money is right there, man.
I tell you, the show's never looked better. That's for
Actually,
sure.
it has looked really good from the specials and these first few episodes since
Is it a
Christmas have been
triumph
made.
of style over content, I ask you?
Well, let's talk strictly about space babies. Who loves punting space babies out of airlocks?
Oh, I'm tempted.
You're tempted.
I was tempted. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I kind of went over the brief synopsis, but I'm curious to. I want to dive right in. Let's talk about this episode. Let's talk about the return of Doctor Who, and ask. The first thing I want to ask is, um, are are you guys happy that this? Are you guys happy that Doctor Who's back? Well, I know the answer is yes.
Yes.
How do you feel? Let me rephrase it. How do you feel this episode kicks off the new Who? Like, what's your general thoughts behind that?
It
I think
didn't do
Sean has
it.
something to say, so we should go with
Go
Sean
ahead.
because
It didn't
Take a
do it
shot
for
every. Take a
me.
shot every time. Every time Sean says something of value.
It's just
I'll be
some
drunk.
something of value. You'll stay stone cold sober.
No, just kidding.
I wouldn't have opened the season with it. It felt
Mm.
more like mid-season, Russell T Davies
Okay.
romp, and it didn't do it for me. There were a couple of things in there I liked. We got the exposition dump out of the way early. We got some fun time travel shenanigans early. I like seeing the inner turmoil he's going through. I don't love, like we talked about at Christmas and everything like that. I don't love that we're following up on Chibnall's stuff, but I've come to terms with it. I'm hopeful Russell T Davies has a good plan for it. So I liked a little bit of the inner turmoil and his seeing him reflected and then somebody a beast of its own, the only one that exists, whatever. But overall, though, it just felt too kiddie to me. It felt like we left the show that is for families, so adults and kids, and went way, way hard into like
Well,
campy kid.
they were
land.
babies,
So
it kind of really
exactly,
kid.
yeah. No, I know. Uncanny Valley stuff aside, I just kind of I wouldn't. I don't know. I did not love it. I had hoped first episode back, new era, but Return of the Old Showrunner. I had really high hopes, and I kind of was just left wanting for the season premiere or episode 2, according to Disney. So
Sure.
yeah.
I think you said it best when you said you wouldn't have started the season with this episode because it it has some interesting exposition in there, but I think what's happened these first two episodes, we'll get into the next episode, the next recording, but we go really fast in this ep. Like we get there and we're like the doctor is just going through. By the way, Shooty he's fantastic. I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
I think Millie Gibson's fantastic. I think they're a terrific couple, doctor and companion. I think it moves at like breakneck speed this episode to the point where by the end you're like, oh wow, okay, that was an hour. They tried to pack almost too much in there, but then some of the stuff they did pack in there, it wasn't like you could have kind of cut that out or expanded on some other things. I think my issue with this episode was it's a mid-season episode. I agree with you there. This is something that could have happened like halfway through the season because it doesn't build on the overall, I guess, premise of who the doctor is and what he's doing. Because the last time we saw them, Ruby had just kind of, they went through this kind of really meaningful adventure at Christmas. And then all of a sudden, let's go check out Space Babies. It reminds me a lot of the very first time the doctor took Rose to the end of time, right? It's like,
oh, there were quite a few retreads, yeah.
And it really felt a little bit like that, but it's like they almost redid that episode with sort of a campier, like you said, campier twist. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts on how this ties into the overall season. What about you, Marcus? Overall kickoff of this season, the series, season 14, series 14, whatever, season 1, whatever they're calling it, to use this episode. What was your thoughts?
It was silly. It was a lot of exposition. It could have done without baby focus.
Okay.
2 consecutive episodes. We had that in the Christmas episode. And yes, he's an orphan. Yes, she's an orphan. Yes, there's some big kahuna going on about her in the background. I get they have to dump the exposition in there because apparently, the fact that it was, it's always been this huge show in the US. It's almost as if, oh, we've got it on Disney Plus. Well, you English guys, you're not gonna believe the viewing figures, but they're gonna need some explaining. I was like, fuck you, pal. It's been out for fucking 60 years. For the last 15, whatever it is, or 19 years, since 2005, it's been on various networks. I mean, Sci-Fi was shit, but when it got onto BBC America, that's when it really started to roll. It's got this confirmed viewership. I know that you want to maybe expose this to new people, but you don't, and no pun intended, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't start, it's like, all right, where'd you start in Doctor Who? Well, we had the exposition in Special 1. We had David Tennant and talking about this, that, and the other. And we had 3 banging specials. And then we had a quite good Christmas special. Still not the greatest. I rewatched it in the build up to this. Still not the greatest. Shooty's great, but I've yet to see him taxed. He's got so much charisma, but I've yet to see a little bit of some serious heft behind it. I mean, when he seems to have a tear running down his cheek at all times. I'm like, fuck's sake, come on. Yes, we know you're a new doctor and you've been through rehab and your emotions are all over the place and blah blah blah. Come on, do you have to cry all the fucking time? If this was the worst episode of the season, I'd say get it out of the way now.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
That's fair.
If. Not big if, because, so far as I'm concerned, Shooty's first 2 episodes have been at best a B plus.
Okay.
After the A, B, and A plus for the 3 specials with David Tennant. Now I know he's growing into the role. I know he hasn't found his voice yet, but it just feels like this is the same. There's not been any growth yet, and I realize they set this directly after the Christmas special, 10 seconds after the TARDIS is gone. But yeah, I mean the CGI was impressive. Could have done without the babies talking. Couldn't they made them telepaths or something? Because honestly, this was it felt like a fucking diaper commercial at times. It really did. And
Nice.
I mean, Russell T Davies, he likes to have a bit of fun. You go back to the first episode of the reboot with Rose, and you had Mickey the Idiot swallowed by a plastic bin that then burst. So I mean, we know he likes his bodily functions, and we've got buggers, and we've got fart-powered ships, and I mean, I just hope he's got this pure. I mean, and I love a good puerile joke. I love childish sense of humor, but I just hope it's out of the way. I thought it was a mediocre start to the season. There have been way better. He has written way better. And I hope they just decided this was probably the weakest script of the lot. I know we've got some amazing scripts coming up. Mark Gatiss has written a script, and we know that good old what's his face Moffat. And Shooty's been saying that the Moffat script is his favorite Doctor Who story ever. So that gives me hope. But Russell T, my man from the Mumbles. You need to step. Oh, he lives in the Mumbles. He's from Port Talbot originally, but yeah, he needs to step it up. You had 3 banging specials, but quality's dipped since Giggle, as far as I'm concerned.
Let's get to a little bit of the details here, because there was some interesting stuff that happened, right? So again, we take Ruby to essentially the beginning of major Earth happenings with dinosaurs, and then to the end of basically, was it the last humans were on that ship? The babies were they?
No, they weren't the last.
No,
they weren't the last.
Okay.
It was another
part of humans colonizing space.
Okay, got it. Okay.
But the message that came across there was very. I mean, this is what I will say about Russell T. And sorry to interrupt you, Dolly. You brought it into my head. The message he sent across there is so, it's like super progressive, and it's so pro women's rights, because he does say, one of the characters, the nanny says, it's typical of a government. They'll let a baby be conceived and they'll abandon it. And if that wasn't a huge double finger up, boom, to the anti-abortion movement. So, and if any of you are watching, boomity boom. That I thought was obviously quite beautiful.
Yeah.
So that message was in there, and that was great. It's just a shame it was wrapped around diapers and boogers. And
I want to take a quick step back, because hearing the both of you talk about this and the way you've described it and described certain things, I suddenly feel like maybe it was good for a good way to kick off the series on Disney Plus, because it is a reboot. It's sort of a reboot of Doctor Who, because of everything that we went through with the previous, with Chibi's trash. People had left in droves Doctor Who, and so they needed some way to bring folks back into the fold. Obviously, putting it on Disney Plus and opening up to a mass audience is important. I think it launches Friday evenings in the U.S.
Friday 4:00 Pacific, midnight UK time.
You're muted, Sean, which is just perfect. But it
wouldn't
launches.
Want you getting drunk on my
exactly
valuable commentary. No, I said it was a surprise. I actually thought it was Saturday night, and
Sure.
Pour one out for our UK friends for the first time ever at midnight.
Yeah. Well, they were the ones that used to get Marvel shows first, so we were the ones that were out of luck. Now
They
guess
would
what?
get Doctor Who
And
first too.
Now we get Doctor Who first.
yeah, they. I mean, it does air on the BBC
Yeah.
the next day, but it goes live for them the same
Yep.
time as it goes live with us. But it is midnight. Which is
Exactly. And I think,
stupid.
and so like kind of back to my point is that this is, for all intents and purposes, I feel like this is a reboot of Doctor Who. You're serving a newer audience. A lot of folks, like I said, a lot of folks left after Chippy's run. You reeled in the classic Who folks with by bringing David Tennant back, which I think was just a super smart move on a part of Russell and the BBC, was actually bring the prodigal son back and have him usher in stuff, and that brought all of us back. We were all so excited. We rated these A plus basically, right? And so you got us now, but you also have to expand this audience because you don't want to have happen what happened to Doctor Who up until now, which was it's been fading. Even the 12th Doctor years saw the fandom slowly start to fade away. And those are Moffat's years, right? And the fandom was starting to chip away at it. You weren't really bringing in new fans with Capaldi. You were really catering to those of us who are the hardcore. So I feel like Shooty is a great start, a great reboot. Shooty and Millie, I think their story is really fun. I actually, Shooty hasn't found his voice quite yet. I think he's getting there, but he really is. He is so fun to watch on screen. When he's on there, I enjoy his presence on my screen because it makes it, he's going to be full of energy. Where previous doctors, we haven't had doctors who are full of energy in a long time. So he is just he's a spark. He's a fireball, whatever terminology you want to use. But he does definitely lights up the scenes, and I think that really does help for help new fans, I should say, start to get engaged in Doctor Who. So, anyways, I think it's a good start from that standpoint. Now, plot wise, like I think I mentioned earlier, it went really fast, and there were some points where I thought they could have chopped away and really need some things to get fleshed out. It's not the best Doctor Who episodes. It's fairly mediocre from a Doctor Who episode, but I think at the same time, it's probably pretty good for getting new audiences into Doctor Who because they're like, oh, this is really campy. Doctor Who can be campy, and I've always heard Doctor Who is had gotten serious and all these issues and stuff, but now they saw this kind of quirky episode, and it's a boogie. I didn't really like the Boogie Man's design. It was kind of a rubber suit, really bad rubber suit look to it, but
actually, that felt like one of the old Doctor Who homages.
It did. That's why I didn't like. That's why I didn't like it. That's why I didn't like this.
I didn't like the explanation of what it was. I appreciate it because it's building into this whole new universe of fantasy versus sci-fi, and the rules have changed because he went to the end and changed the rules, and there's the giggle and everything else. So it's literally a manifestation of boogers, which conceptually I understand.
It could have been poop. It could have been poop. We were so.
Oh, they saved that for the turbo boost.
There you go.
Yeah. Alternatively, it could have been a real monster, like a real manifestation of nightmares. I mean, it could have been a million things, right? They were going for I think they were going for hybrid episodes, Beast Below, and some other stuff. I think you make a good point. I talked to Marcus about this over the weekend. Yes. I don't know that I necessarily. I think there's a line between the serious and the heavy and the tragic and the dark, and the super over the top dozen talking babies campy, and I think there's the middle ground there where you can show that it can be a lighthearted show and it can be camp, but this went so far into campland, it just I don't know. It felt like it just was it felt like it was a bit much. Okay. I worry that if I were to try to show my friends to either get them back into this show or get them into it for the first time, I would not pick this episode. I would not. Of the three I can choose from right now with Shooty, I would either go Christmas or, the Beatles. This one,
I
just
wouldn't
like I
pick
wouldn't
any of them.
show. I'm
I
saying if I
wouldn't
had
pick.
to, if I had
Yeah, I
to
know,
pick
but saying
from this
if
season,
well, yeah. I mean, and that's the damning indictment. I wouldn't. I would rather not show them an episode of Doctor Who than show them the level of mediocrity. And again, it's no blast on Shooty and Millie, but at the end of the day, we also had we've had a previous Doctor who was a really talented actor, and she was served shit left, right, and center. Now we
well, this is
had
not that.
no, I know, but we had three outstanding, non-campy specials with David Tennant.
Yeah.
And just because they put a gay black man in or a queer black man, you do not need to camp everything the fuck up. You can have a bit of normalcy. As I said, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to alienate all the hundreds of thousands of millions of fans that you've got while just appealing to the new ones. And this is my problem. I am worried that Russell is now getting very excited. He's got this Disney money, and we're gonna have all these people watching on Disney Plus. And I guarantee you, new people, sci-fi people, tuning into that, be like, that's a bunch of shit, mate. I'm at the door. And I hope it's going to get better. The other, I mean, and we'll talk about episode 2 in the next show, but it was not. It struck me as bad as one of the Chris Chibnall New Year's specials, and I can't say. I mean, it was not Russell's A game, and you don't have to camp everything the fuck up. Doctor Who doesn't have to be camp and cheesy. We don't need that. We really don't need that.
I wonder if he's trying to go in this direction of fantasy and camp and singing and
fantasy seems to be a big theme of at least the first 2 Shooty episodes, right?
Because it's never been done before, and it is a completely and totally new spin on the show.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he's just trying to do that to do something that is just completely different from anything.
And it may also be. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's a conversation.
No, go ahead. I'll finish it after.
No, I don't remember what I was going to say. But I think the gist was, I worry, to Marcus's point, almost as if he needs someone to rein him in, right? Because we've seen him at his best. We've seen him at his worst. I mean, we remember seasons 1 through 4. We remember, for every, blink or
midnight
or whatever. There are Absorbalofts, and there are Slovene, and there are farting monsters, and there are the television, the Olympic thing, and the sci-fi and outer space survival stuff. Like it's easier now to look back on it and see those early seasons as sort of beloved, but they are really high highs and low lows.
Yeah.
Until we get into the later part of 3 and 4, he can be really hit or miss. I just worry, to Marcus's point, a little bit. I'm not as down on it. I thought episode 2 was a much better swing versus the miss that is episode 1. But I worry. If he's going so hard down this road, because this is now the new Who, different from the old Who, different from the older Who, then we'll have to see. But I am very, very curious come episode 3. Because did he write the first 2? Did he also write the Cord?
He wrote, yes, he wrote the Cord. Yep.
Yeah. So Moffat's coming up. And we'll have to
Moffat
see.
is the next one. Boom.
Because he was another one. We said the same thing about him. High highs and low lows. And when he's in check and when the other people are helping him write, or he's writing for other people, he was at his best. So.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was gonna say the interesting aspect about the fantasy stuff is fantasy is in right now, and fantasy, good fantasy, high fantasy has become really popular in this generation to the younger teens, folks in their 20s. Fantasy is what they have been gravitating towards more so than sci-fi, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of sci-fi shows. You'll get them on streamers, and you'll get one season out of them, and then they sort of kind of fizzle fizzle out. I know Apple just pulled the plug on a couple too. But fantasy seems to be something that folks are really into. And I'm wondering if he's understanding that, of the times right now, there's a lot of good social issues that you can put in there, but you can also kind of mix in some of these fantasy elements, which aren't, he's still trying to make them be scientific in a way, explained through science, but they're definitely fantasy. But I will say one thing: that weird little tease at the end, right? So Ruby, the doctor says, I can take you anywhere you want. You can go anywhere you want, except for the day you were born, or except because basically you can't meet your mom. Who knows what will happen after that? Because she almost hit the butterfly, right, and turned into a lizard person or a bug person.
That was a high point for me.
That was
a high
great.
point of the show, and then went.
But it would have been fun if they actually pulled something from that. That could have been interesting. But at the end of the episode, he's scanning her, and she shows up as human on the scan, and then they walk out of the TARDIS and go to Christmas dinner or whatever it was. So.
Which is another thing we're getting a repeat of. I mean,
yeah,
I love the mystery box. I'm a sucker for the mystery
Sure.
box. I love the season-long mystery. So I'm in. I'm in.
Mhm.
I don't love returning to the trope of her being some sort of special.
something special.
We've done this before, right?
Yeah, do you remember when
we did it with Clara?
We did it with Clara. We did it with
Mhm.
the Karen Gillan character when she'd been captured and was having the baby and been replaced by the walking goo.
Yeah.
And the doctor and the doctor was scanning her and she's pregnant. Not pregnant, blah blah blah. So yeah, you're right. We've been through this a lot, and I know there's only so many ideas out there, and it's tough to get original ones. But I'm just maybe I am too old or just too thick to understand. But to me, fantasy equates to swords and sorcery.
Sure.
Game of Thrones is
older fantasy. Yes.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing for me. Doctor Who was, and always will be science fiction because that's what it's based in. We're not talking about a magic box. We're talking about a piece of fucking technology, time and relative dimension in space. It's a stolen Type 40 TARDIS that's been around for centuries. The Doctor is 60,000 years old or whatever the fuck it is now. Gallifrey's gone again or whatever. So you can make it science fiction fantastical, but again, don't abandon the science behind it. And you know what? Do not try and pander to a new generation, because they will walk away from this in about 6 weeks, because they're the TikTok generation and they have the attention span of a fucking gnat. It's 90 seconds and you're done.
Yeah.
So, don't just push the envelope, but not rip it to fucking shreds because you want to get your eyes on, you want to get a bunch of this generation of High School Musical fans. It felt like a Nickelodeon special. That's what that show did.
I don't mind. Again, it's been on for so long, and like you said, maybe it's hard after a while to spice up some of the core elements. So I don't mind blending in fantasy with sci-fi,
Yeah.
assuming you're doing sci-fi and fantasy. And you're doing it well.
You do not throw it out the window. You do not throw sci-fi out the window.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the beginning of the episode, sci-fi, great. The exposition dump. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't mind it. Let's get it out of the way in 3 minutes.
It had to be done.
Yeah, sci-fi. Her stepping on the butterfly, sci-fi. Spaceship and all the allegories of abandoning baby, like insisting people have babies and then abandoning them. Sci-fi. Modern. Fantasy. It's babies and the talking and the boogie monster and everything else. Not great. Not great. And then we'll talk more about this in episode 2 because there's a lot more fantasy there. But my guess is this will be a new blend of sci-fi fantasy for Who, at least for this year, if not for both years.
I think so too.
And I agree to a point where Marcus is coming from. Like, they have to do it well. If you're going to change some of the core tenets of the show, no pun intended, you have to do well. You can't go all in on fantasy and then do fantasy poorly. Like, it just is no bueno.
Sure.
So, but there were. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, there were some things to like here. I don't want to. While I didn't love the episode and it was a miss for me overall, the relationship, most of it between the Doctor and his companion is excellent. Their chemistry is excellent. Shooty is excellent. He's portraying the Doctor in a way I've never seen before. Now, granted, I've never gone back outside of an episode here and there to watch the old Doctors. So the emotion, the raw reactions to things, laughing at her when she gets gooped on, like that was all fantastic. I found her writing to be a little strange. They are writing her early as if they had done a lot of adventures together already, and as if this isn't the first time she's stepping into the box after Christmas, same day. So I found that a little odd. I don't hate it, but I thought it was a little off. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. And then, I mean, there's Susan Twist keeps showing up. We've got the Ronnie name drop. We've got
you got Jenny. You got or his. I'm sorry. You have his granddaughter.
Well, not yet, but we will. Yeah.
Did they bring it up in this episode?
No. That's episode 2.
Oh, sorry.
Spoilers. But but honestly, I think there are things to like here. There are things that give me. I'm glad the show is back. I'm not like, oh my god, this is Chibnall all over again. It's not. And I have hope that they will right the ship. And it was interesting. It was a mixed bag overall.
What's interesting is that the critics are loving it. It had 16 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was 100% across the board. Okay. So it is finding, pleasure in the critics, but I suppose there are a younger generation of critics, and again, we old.
Yeah, we are. That's what I'm saying. We old.
I just think it was hit or miss.
It's getting some good reviews. I will say one thing. I feel like the Doctor scanned Ruby because he wanted to find out if there was something about her, and so when he scanned her,
something's up.
Well, he knows something's up, but
we know
we
all know something's up.
There was a snow memory, which was amazing.
But I feel like her being a human is something that he wanted to find out. Because if she was not a human, then we would have cut away before the scan, before we got to that part. But she was scanned to be human right away. So there may be a connection to someone from his past there. So anyways, how many thrown away snot rags do you give this episode out of 5? Let's start with you, Marcus. 2? Okay. Sean?
Out of 5, probably 3, 2.5, 3.
I'm gonna give it 3 as well. I enjoyed it. I wasn't in love with it, but I enjoyed it. It's a solid 3 for me. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on Space Babies, and feel free to check out lonelytardis.com. Maybe we'll set up a Discord one of these days too. Who knows? We'll do something fun. You can feel free to follow us in places because we're kind of all over the place. But lonelytardis.com. Go to YouTube. The Lonely TARDIS. I think that's where we're located. We'll see you on the next episode of The Lonely TARDIS.
Ooh. Ooh.